Pillars of Eternity continues. A winding stair hugs the cliffside, providing an impressive view as you work your way higher and higher. Not too far along the path, however, you find your progress interrupted. A large boulder appears to have fallen onto the road from somewhere up above, and it now sits squarely in your way. Alright, we hammer and chisel that bad boy. Chiseling away at the boulder proves a slow and wearying endeavor, especially when several sections of the boulder prove too hard to carve through, forcing you to aim elsewhere. After a long while, your efforts pay off, and a section of the boulder splits away. You hear the echoing clatter of rocks tumbling down the side of the cliff. The sound seems to stir something overhead. A shadow crosses the path, quick as lightning, and vanishes before you can catch a glimpse of what has cast it. But you do see the rapidly growing silhouettes of several more rocks flung down at you from above. Without a moment's pause, you duck under a small rocky protrusion along the cliff face. The rock strikes the earth hard and bounces away down the steps, or else over the sides of the slope. Your ordeal has passed. You continue your climb, and the rest of the journey proceeds without incident. At last you find yourself at the base of a final twisting set of steps, above which you can see the towering pillars of Hylia's nest.
I rather hoped we'd be sneaking up on it.
As you reach the summit of the mountain, a gust of wind stirs the air. You hear a noise like the snapping of sails, and the sky is briefly blotted out. A dragon lands before you, shaking the ground beneath your feet. It draws itself up to its full height and spreads its wings, barring your passage. Its neck, its back, and the ridge of its spine are covered with magnificent plumage. It hisses at you, and while the sound is unlike any language you've ever heard, the beast's meaning is utterly clear.
Vermin invading my nest, threatening my hatchling. You shall feed my young.
A small worm crouches in the corner of the temple behind the dragon. Killing this bitch. Oh, don't be terrified. Crowd control. Ow! That's a hell of a breath weapon. That hit us from a far away. Having to go over these spells.
What?
Hi?
Breathe. What? Moe.
I think we got this dragon. It's probably the easiest of all the dragons, though. Game Hoarder done slain his first dragon.
Well?
And we had to kill this guy because we're talking about getting dragon meat and 2 sky dragon eyes, which is going to give us superb weaponry. Sorry, brother. Couldn't let you live. Now, if you said you were going to terrorize the people of the continent and burn and eat innocent children, I might have let you live, but I did not get that very evil vibe from you.
Of course.
You were just trying to protect your babies, and doesn't get much more evil than killing babies. Oh, look at that. Golden Sunya! Warhammer one-handed. Forged by our master smith of the Knights of the Crucible, Godinsoon, God's Thunder, saw greatest use during the War of Defiance. Dedicated to Abaddon and inscribed with his holy symbol, the hammer held devastating power and could leave foes senseless with a single blow. In the thick of battles, warriors would often claim to hear thunderous explosions and witness blinding flashes of light. Many believed the gods themselves disapproved of the fighting and were voicing their displeasure. Oh yeah, Willbreaker Grimoire. You know who's taking that. Topaz, diamond, some tears, and some copper. The edges of the bones are brittle and blackened. She fell on all the good spots to search. I think that's it, though. Let's keep on keeping on. Azuro has left the stronghold. I don't know that we ever could find him. I want to check out this book here. Yeah, probably not going to get a bunch of new spells. Looks like we have all those. Should have also got, let's see. I got too much shit. Might have missed the bone pile, honestly. Ah, I did. There's the ring. Pensaibi Mesre. Might +3. The story goes that this ring belonged to the Seeker of Balance, a cipher assassin of the Order of the Black Stone. He was captured in an attempt to kill a duchess, an old Valia. And while awaiting execution, he channeled his soul into the ring. The ring was then taken by one of the guards who, upon wearing it, was possessed by the Seeker. Through the guard, he completed the assassination of the Duchess. Over the years, the ring lost its power to possess, but remained a formidable item. This tarnished old ring isn't much to look at. By night, however, the mark of the Order of the Black Stone glows from the band. +3 might. Maybe a good ring for her. If she doesn't already have +3 might coming from somewhere else. I know it's not going to help Luglug and probably not Eder. It looks like it doesn't really help her. She's got something else on. It's already given her might. Oh, right there, +2, and getting 2 constitution, so not really worth giving to her. Definitely not giving up that circle, or that ring. Yep, he's wearing something as well. That doesn't really help us, actually. It will look good in the treasure hold, though.
Yes.
Need to travel to Elm's Reach now.
Never made it up that way.
Then we're still good. I heard tell you fought in the Saints' War. Which side was that?
Well, didn't matter much in the end. Both sides lost.
Just as well. Got no love for either.
Suppose I don't either these days.
So, your squad ever come through Cold War?
Uh-uh. Never made it up that way.
Then we're still good.
Missed some of the dialogue there, so I reloaded so we could catch that. Looks like the Devil of Karak had some interest in whether Eder or not had been through her area. It's probably where her initial form was killed. Shattered and charred stone blocks the passage to the sun and shadow.
A brothel for the aged.
Symbols of all the gods. Abaddon, Galawain, Magran, Hylia, Barath, Rimmergrand, Skaen, and Ondra. Well, let's talk to Hylia. That's the temple that we were just at with the dragon. The shrine sits before a bright constellation, its stars forming the oval shape of an egg. pair of wings sprout from the egg, stretching out to either side. We want to say, live every note of life's song. The words seem to ring in the air, your voice rendered melodic and lilting by some unseen art. You kneel. While you pray, you feel the space around your body shift and melt, and you find yourself in a vision of a mountaintop temple. Yet you see neither worshippers nor a dragon, but a tree. Its limbs wrap around the perimeter of the temple, tapering into twigs and branches of all sizes and angles. They seem too long and too numerous to be held up by the meager trunk, but they hold steady in the breeze. A single sparrow lands on the nearest branch. It watches you. Throw a rock at the sparrow. I don't know if we want to do that. Yeah, you can definitely fail this. So we're going to seek audience with Hylia. I guess we can always reload. Alright, we'll whistle to the bird. You whistle the first tune that pops in your head. The sparrow blinks its beady eyes and hops closer to you along the branch. It bobs its tiny head and opens its beak, and the rich, trilling melody that spills forth is a song of the chorus of birds. A massive flock descends with a thundering of wings and whooping, screeching, chirping calls. They fill the boughs of the tree by the thousands, birds of every shape, size, and color, nestling next to one another. A breeze ripples through the air, the limbs sway, creaking with a strange, gentle rhythm. A few hundred of the birds flit from their branches, forming a brilliantly variegated flock in the front of the tree. As they meet the swoop in unison, you catch a glimpse of someone looking back at you, cloaked by a flurry of feathers.
You journeyed to my temple and rid it of the dragon. Now my faithful may return, singing their joy to the skies and praising me through their creation.
Yeah, so we kind of helped this goddess out, but we did it for the money and the items. I just wanted to kill a dragon!
You thirst for blood and glory, then. Yet even your passion for violence and death can be channeled to protect life. I would have you face an even greater foe.
The great flock wheels around the temple. I'm listening! The birds return to the tree and nestle amongst their peers. The breeze ripples through the branches again, carrying the goddess's voice.
You must stop Theos, and you must undo the tragedy he has wrought.
I plan on it! Birds all over the tree begin to chirp and sing, and in the rise and the fall of their voices, Hylia speaks. Theos acts but is moved by another. The exiled queen whispers in his ear, urges him to rob the living and the unborn of their souls for her benefit, and he has obeyed. The hawk shifts on its perch. She will consume them, grow powerful, while 1,000 empty children are born. But there is still time to reverse this tragedy. Sounds like Theos has collaborated with her for a long time. You already know that he has lived many lives. In each it has been her voice in his ear, guiding him to serve her ambitions, urging him to protect her interest. Alos's expression fails. This is what the Laden Key has been for centuries? The melody of the birds grows mournful, and each of his lives has been one stanza after another in a song of devotion to the Oathbinder. Why would Wodika do this? The pair of eagles shriek. Because she prizes authority over mercy, laws over kith. She values the souls of mortals, but not for the beauty they create, but for what they can add to her power. The wind blows cold. She fears animancy. She believes that mortals may use it to usurp the gods' powers, her power. She cares nothing for the innovation of Kith, and how could she? She gives commands, not inspiration. How can I return things to the way they were? The birds fall silent, watching you. The voice of the winds returned. Guide the trapped souls back to the bodies they were stolen from, hollow-born children whose eyes have never seen the sun. You could restore them, give their families hymns of joy after years of lament. A breeze tickles your penis. Peace and restoration give purpose to suffering. There is no meaning, no redemption in the pain that does not lead to fulfillment. Symmetry demands that great rejoicing follow suffering such as this. Perhaps it would be better to allow these souls to find new lives. How can they continue to another when they have not fully lived this life? To pass them along another is cutting a stanza from the poem, a verse from a song. I'm not sure that it's possible to truly undo the harm Theos has caused. You hear the cry of a swift, soft, and plaintive. Perhaps the years cannot be forgotten, and for some perhaps it is already too late. But if you could restore even one soul, kindle one spark of life, raise one voice in joy, it would be worth it. There's another side to this. His tone is cautious. You've seen the consequence of the soul's disjointed from its own cycle. Could these children ever truly return? Thank you, Halia. I will continue to Sun and Shadow.
When you reach the burial isle, you will find souls there that I have granted reprieve for their sins. I give these to you, for only they can bear you to safety on your journey down. And when you face Theos and the rotting fruits of his endeavors, remember the conversation we have had. In that moment you will have power rivaling a god's. And after it, you will live in the world that you have chosen.
When you reach the burial isle, you will find the souls there that I have granted reprieve from their sins. I give these to you, for only they can bear you to safety on your journey down. When you face Theos and the rotting fruits of his endeavors, remember the conversation we have had. In that moment you will have power rivaling a god's, and after it you will live in the world that you have chosen.
Choose restoration, Watcher. Return the souls to the bodies they were stolen from. Swear to me that you will do this, and I shall give you power to make even Woodica quake. I can be merciful and terrible, Watcher.
I swear to return the souls to the hollow-burn children of the Deerwood. Wink, wink. And I shall remember. The dark wings snap shut, and the tiny sparrow flits to your shoulder. It tilts its head back and opens its beak, and the song that spills forth is like nothing you've ever heard. Melodies that once mournful and beautiful entrance you. The world becomes a place of pure color and sound, each perfect moment following the next, like the lines of a poem or the bar of a song. You awaken as if from a dream, standing in Tir Evron. Hylia's song and the power of her blessing follows you still. Wait a minute, could I have chosen other god shit? I don't know how this works. It's an average adventure. Here you go, old man. Take a hike. Alright. Pray to Barath. There is life and death in life. There's a rippling shift in the air around you as if someone felt wind has changed, bringing unexpected warmth. You feel a peculiar weight of an unseen presence and eyes upon you. You kneel and pray to Barath. Even while your eyes are closed, you see a road that seems to stretch on forever. The stars wheel overhead in the clockwork rotation of constellations, disappearing over the horizon to your left, only to rise on your right. You try to make out the details on either side of the road, but your eyes can't seem to focus. One moment you think you see a meadow blanketed with mist, and another sheer canyon walls. Just for an instant, you even see waves lapping at the edges of the road. Were you to step into the shifting landscape, you feel certain you would only end up back on the road. You know this vision, but the packed dirt feels firm beneath your feet, and the night air cool on your face. You are walking. Your feet seem to carry you forward of their own accord. Something looms ahead of you. As you get closer, you can see two stone figures that look strangely familiar. Bunin. I, Anku, and Anku I Bunin. Two of the oldest representations of Barath. You remember the door to Cleoban Rilag, and the two figures carved into the mountain next to it. One looks vaguely male and the other looks vaguely female. Only a thin layer of flesh covers their skeletal bodies, which twist to face the doorway between them. The doorway, however, is not what you saw in the ruins. It's the skull, gaping and jawless. And as you look on, its open mouth seems to grow. The arms of the two stone sculptures are swept toward the mouth, inviting you in. The road continues through the mall to another shifting landscape surrounded by stars. As you pass through it, you see an identical doorway in the distance. A dwarven man stands near it, unmoving. You turn and look behind you, only to see the skull gate you just passed facing you. An elven woman waits in the road. Like the dwarf, she stands still. You continue down the road toward him. He looks up as you approach, but you can't tell if he's looking at you or through you. His face is smooth but flaccid, as if the flesh is detached from the muscles underneath. As you look on, his face begins to change. Wrinkles crack at the corner of his eyes. His mouth sinks, carving deep lines from his nose to the corner of his lips. His jowls sag, and the loose flesh hangs like dough. He raises his cupped hands. They're covered in blood. He lifts them to his face and smears himself from his newly creased forehead to the wattles of his neck. As he massages the dark, sticky fluid into his skin, the fresh wrinkles disappear. The hanging folds recede, and his flesh tightens, as if re-adhering to his skull. He lifts his head this time, and you know he's looking at you. His renewed face looks like a mask, artificially smooth and still. Behind it, his black eyes are two hungry pits, yawning like the empty mouths of the skull. Come, make your sacrifice to ethnic Nor. His body blocks the path. He extends a bloody hand toward you. You grab his hand, but his skin gives too easily under your grip. As you try to pull away, you hear a noise like dried canvas tearing. His skin splits, following a long seam that begins at his arm and stretches at the length of his body. Blood gushes forth in such quantities that you can't imagine there was ever anything else to him. Sure enough, as the dwarf empties of blood, he collapses like a desiccated husk. The blood in the path gleams with 1,000 souls' worth of essence. The essence evaporates, trailing shiny filaments into the night sky. Only now that he is dead can you continue onward. The blood pools around your feet, and you look up and see the elven woman waiting. You start toward her, and there's something unnatural about the way she stands. She's too still. When you get closer, you see that her legs taper into a slender trunk, and in place of her feet are gnarled, twisting roots. She lifts her face to an invisible sun. Her long golden hair is the color of autumn leaves, and as you look more closely, you realize that her head is actually covered with tendrils and vines, sprouting brilliant yellow leaves. Each glimmers with an essence of the entire soul. She gives you a beatific smile. As you look on, the leaves slowly fall from her head and settle at her roots. They melt into the path beneath her, and almost immediately new leaves sprout in place of the old. She reaches towards you, still smiling, as roots spring from their fingertips. Her outstretched arms bar the path. You grab her hand too. Her roots twine around your fingers, and as they do, they grow rigid and cold. Her outstretched arm petrifies as a rough stone bark overtakes her flesh. She can only look on in horror. You break away from her brittle grasp. Her feet are rooted in place, but she twists and writhes as if trying to flee her own dying limb. The petrification reaches her shoulder and spreads down her body, freezing it in a painful arc. It creeps up her neck, and she throws her face skyward like a drowning swimmer. The grayness covers her face, freezing her gasp in the stone. Now that she is still and lifeless, you can continue past her. Only the golden leaves on her head remain untouched, and as you watch, they fall one by one on the path below. They shrivel as the shimmering essence fades from them. A voice echoes along the road, barely more than a whisper on the breeze. Return them to the wheel. You lift your gaze and see the skull gate ahead of you on the path. The candles of Tir Everon wink through the open mouth. So I think we can only take the boon of one god, so I may need to reload here. Alright, so I had to reload because Hylia gave us her boon, and we can only receive one boon. Her boon gives us one perception and one lore, but I don't want that for Lug. We want Galawain, who gives us strength and athletics. Rimgrand here can give us constitution and survival. Not too bad, but I'd still rather have the strength. But let's go ahead and grab his quest. All life ends in stillness. You feel a sudden cold gust of air as if the shrine were bursting into wintry life. The frigid wind cuts through you like a sharpened blade, and darkness encroaches upon the edges of your sight. You kneel and close your eyes. As you pray, the blackness fades to white, and a howling wind fills your ears. The vision that slowly resolves itself is of a broad, frozen plain. You can see a procession of elves in the distance, periodically fading into the emerging from the whiteness. They trudge over the snow banks, their heads down against the driving winds. As they trek past you, one man bundled in furs turns his head. "You headed for Noon Frost and the Frost-hewn breach too?" Before you can answer, he's lumbered ahead. You follow the caravan, and in a couple minutes you come to a wall of ice. It disappears into a pale emptiness overhead and stretches as far as you can see in either direction. The elves stop in front of a mere smooth section that's framed like a temple door. It seems somehow thinner than the rest of the wall. You can't see what's on the other side, but a debilitating cold emanates from within. The elves pull pickaxes and shovels from their sealskin packs and begin hacking at the smooth ice, their implements flying through the air in swift, shining arcs. Though they throw their bodies into their labor, not one of them so much as scratches the polished ice, yet with each blow something bellows in the distance. Eddard calls out to the elves, "Hey! You might want to hold off on that!" But the howling wind seems to swallow up his voice. The elves hack away, seemingly oblivious to the furious lowing, and then the tremors under your feet. The snow has risen to your knees. Your legs feel frozen in the drafts. You grab the nearest elf by her shoulder, shaking her and yelling over the howling winds and pointing the direction of the booming noise, but she only scowls. "Leave us, traveler. We've got to get through. We can't stay on this side any longer." "Listen, you're angering something very big. You better stop." The elf strains to listen as she rests her pick in the mounting snow. Some of her fellows pause in their labors. A man with a withered, frostbitten finger turns. He raises his maimed hand, and the others stop as well. They stand motionless for several seconds before you realize they've frozen entirely. You touch the elf nearest to you, and she crumbles into a mound of snow. A final gale blows past, scattering the remains of the elves into chaotic flurry. You notice a single spiderweb crack in the smooth barrier. It's the only thing that mars the perfect surface of the ice. Whatever's on the other side of the strange doorway, you feel it tugging at you. Only when you look back and see the parallel gashes trailing behind your legs in the snow do you realize how strong its pull is.
My end comes to all things in time. Seal the frost-hewn breach and instruct the pilgrims in the patience of Remergond.
I'm not sticking my finger in any hole. You fill your hand with snow and shove it into the crack. It hardens instantly, and a roaring grime grows over the smooth surface of the frozen doorway, fusing it with the rest of the wall. When you take your hand away, a perfect crystal of ice remains in your palm. As you examine the crystal, the vision around you fades, but the unmelting shard of ice remains in your hand. Into the wide void. I found the Noon Frost from Grant's temple in Old Song. A frost-hewn breach must be here. When I find it, I can use a shard in the vision to close it according to Rimgren's wishes. So we've solved Hylia's quest, which was clearing her temple of the evil Sky Dragon. Wodeka's shrine and Whale's shrine are closed off to us, but the other four we can pray at. And this is who we want to turn in first, because he will automatically give us a boon of +1 might in athletics. Survival begins with strength from within. The air around you stirs and a gust of warm wind blows across the back of your neck. You catch the faintest smell of wet earth. As you kneel in front of the shrine, you feel yourself push forward. You catch yourself on your hands and knees, feeling warm, damp ground beneath them. Looking around, you find yourself crouched in a clearing in the middle of the woods. The smell of dirt hangs heavy in the air. You feel certain that this is a vision, but the hairs on the nape of your neck still rise. Something leaps from the bushes, and you find yourself pinned on your back and staring into the amber eyes of a massive hound. The beast looks at you. Gleaming fangs protrude from the sides of its mouth. Its nose twitches as it inhales your scent, starting at your shoulder and proceeding down the length of your arm. You follow its nose to your hand, which is covered in blood. A tongue as red and meaty as a steak lolls out of its mouth and swipes your bloody hand. Its lips curl into what looks like a smile. The beast looks back at you, and as it fixes its glowing eyes, its muzzle retreats into a long, bearded face, and its pointed ears lengthen, dropping to the sides of its head. What was a massive hound becomes a giant of a man, his broad, muscled shoulders draped with furs. He holds a flint knife to your neck and grins, revealing a row of long, pointed teeth.
You have slain 2 mighty hunters. Blood flows in the maw, yet no victor emerges. Why have you denied me my champion?
Because I never back down from a good fight. Yes, he roars. Might grappling with might, flesh tears, bones break, and the ones that mend are stronger still. Blood mixes, and the worthier substances rise to the top. The changeling throws his head back and closes his eyes, breathing deeply of the cool air. He lets out a howl that rings through the air. He lowers his head, puffs of steam rising from his panting mouth. Twigs crunch and branches snap. The ground shivers under the weight of his pacing, prowling footsteps. A dozen beasts, bears, wolves, and long-faned cats stack out of the undergrowth, their matching amber eyes fast on you. Aloth takes a step back and almost pisses himself a little bit. Just how real do you think this is? As the beasts encircle you, their master rises to his feet. Even the largest of bears can only reach his brown and muscled knot at his shoulders. You stand mindful of the ring of predators surrounding you.
You sought and won the favor of Galawain. What new prey do you now pursue?
I hunt Theos!
To track a quarry, you must understand its movements. And Theos follows the path of a more powerful master.
A warm breeze carries the smell of smoke and gunpowder. Sparks ignite and float in the draft, catching in the leaves over Galawain's head. A sudden blast of heat scalds your face, and even as you turn away, a flash of light sears your vision through your eyelids. When you look back, you see a woman in full plate standing next to Galawain. Her mirrored, polished armor flickers with images of reflected flames. You can't see her face, but her voice is strong and clear like the ringing of steel.
Let him know his foe.
The hall breaks so silence at last. Have you missed me, Magrin? You may have found other lovers, but surely none that was my equal. Magrin says nothing in response. Indeed, she never even glances in Durance's direction. An involuntary tic causes the baggy skin beneath Durance's eyes to quiver. He says no more, his ruddy skin blanched white.
Theos has trapped thousands of souls in sun and shadow like rabbits in a snare. Now, he goes there to retrieve the kill for his master, Woodiga.
One of the bears paws at the ground in irritation, its hackles rising.
She will feast on them, suck their marrow, grow strong on their essence.
As the Stelgar watches you, it licks its lips, its tongue scraping long fangs. Why would Theos help Woodiga?
Because he is her hound. He has always done her bidding.
His eyes dart to another figure standing just behind Magrin.
Woodiga stands for an old order. So does Theos.
A golem made of black and pitted iron steps out of Magrin's shadow. Its movements are slow yet precise, each footfall accompanied by the groaning and grinding of metal. The steady orange glow of a furnace coals emanates from its eye sockets. In Abaddon's crude yet efficient form, you see an uncanny resemblance to the eyeless. Yet his limbs are more finely wrought, his joints more flexible.
They both fear change, and the Deerwood has changed much recently. People find answers not in the gods, but in animancy, the product of their own labors.
And why not? When they have learned that even a god can be killed.
She says that like it wasn't her followers that unleashed the Godhammer. Animancy doesn't seem to trouble you. The three gods seem to look at one another. One of the wolves sits and scratches its neck with quick strokes of its hind leg.
The clash of ideas, the search for answers and meaning. These are other hunts.
They would supplant you. How can you accept this so easily?
This is the destiny of Kith, to struggle and transform, even through animancy.
And to improve. Steady labor and earnest industry elevate Kith above Wilder and Beast. It is also useful that they should learn to improve their souls, whether through struggle, transformation, or labor. On this, at least, we have no disagreement.
What should I do about it?
Track Theos. Follow the trail he has left for you, and corner him in sun and shadow.
You have hired out your strength in the service of others, Watcher. Now we ask that you employ your talents for the benefit of all of the Deerwood. You must stop Theos before he empowers Woodica.
And if you do, you will have a different decision to make.
Balal's eyes widen. The gods mean to leave this in our hands.
Souls were ripped from the world, ripe and full and pulsing with essence. Scatter them like bones to a pack of dogs. Their essence will strengthen the souls of the Deerwood. Let the remains of the dead feed the survivors.
Why would I feed the lost soul's essence to the rest of the Deerwood?
To breed strength. Power is born from the mixing of essence and blood.
The wolves snarl and snap.
What Theos did cannot be undone. Thousands of lives have changed, and thousands more have ended because of his actions. But transformation gives purpose to trial.
And improvement is the goal of all Kith. Long lives, prosperous futures, stronger minds and bodies. Strengthening those who remain will help repair the damage that Theos has done to the Deerwood.
Why would you help me, Abaddon? I thought you'd be angry.
Angry? You are not complicit in Theos' actions. That is why we appeal to you now.
You sense Abaddon's confusion, and indeed that of the other gods. Whatever the essence of the isle is dispersed, you don't detect any of it in Abaddon.
If Vodka can accomplish this, then perhaps she deserves her victory.
The bad Galawan side rises on hind legs and roars. It falls back on all fours with the ground shaking thud. Galawan points his chipped flint dagger at you.
A victory that leaves her ruler of all. No room for conflict, no struggle, not even between the gods.
Be careful what you wish for, mortal. Woodica's ways are regressive. Her laws never change, her authority never ebbs, and she never forgets a slight.
Woodica would crush the Deerwood simply out of vengeance for the rebellion against Adir, her favorite. She would stamp out Animancers, Godslayers from the Saints' War, and anyone else she viewed as heretical or dangerous.
And who's more dangerous to her than a Watcher who prods at her schemes? I don't see why I should give a fuck.
Because your soul will be at her mercy, and already you know too much.
Woodica will not keep the pact. She will interfere with mortals the very way we have always avoided. Your development will no longer be in your own hands.
Stagnation. You will be caged and stunted.
Well, now I gotta find Theos and kick his ass.
And when you descend the pit to sun in shadow, you can count on our assistance to see you safely through. As I hope we can count on yours when you reach the bottom. There are many souls upon the burial isle that are sworn to serve us. They belong to you now, and they shall guide your descent.
Beware the promise of a God Watcher. They are binding, but only in one direction.
The beasts grow restless, pawing the ground and eyeing you with renewed interest. The bear sniffs at the ground next to your leg. One Stelgar skulks into a circle, its amber eyes glowing. Galloween hurls his knife between your feet, sinking it to its handle. He raises his empty hand.
Hunt him, mortal. And when you stop him, let the souls he has captured feed the Deerwood.
Strengthen the souls of those who remain. Prepare them to face the challenges that will follow. Pledge that you will do this, and we will grant you a power fit for the finest warrior who ever lived.
Betray us, and my beast shall track you down. Our allegiance is not to be accepted and cast aside.
I pledge now that I shall convert the captured souls into essence to strengthen the Deerwood.
The bargain is struck, Watcher. Keep your part.
Galwin lunges for you and sinks a hatchet into your chest. You cry out, but the pain passes quickly. Energy and power seeps into your thoughts. Seeps in you through the wound. And when Galwin withdraws, the flesh knits again to contain something warm and pulsing with power. Alright, now we got Galwin's boons. That gives us +1 strength, or +1 might and +1 athletics. That's going to put Lug Lug at a devastating 30 might. I don't even... Maybe he's capped at 30? In that case, I would want to get the Constitution. God damn it. I might have to reload again? Let's make another save here. I'm just going to pause the camera while I check his strength. If it wasn't 29, then that was a wasted effort. Alright, and I did have 29, so that worked.
Yes.
So now we can pray to Hylia. And I'm forgetting live every... There we go.
You journey
Let's skip
to
past
my
this since
temple
we've
and
already,
rid it of the dragon. A favor for a favor, is that it? Not an unwelcome. Then you have earned the favor up. When you reach the burial, choose Restoration 1.
Okay. Thought I wasn't allowed to get the boon. I'm confused. What the fuck? So yeah, I don't know. I thought, anyways, according to this one guide I was looking at, as far as the quest for the gods, they were saying you can only get boons from one, but I reloaded and I had 16 perception. Oh, I see what it's doing. It took away the other boon. Never mind. Oh man, this is tricky. That means I gotta turn in Galawain's last. Okay, so after 16 reloads, we have it correct. We have to pray to Galawain last and turn in his quest last. So I've already turned in Hylia's. We'll take care of Rimmergrand and Barath here next. And then, since we already have Galawain's completed, we can turn that in, and the final boon will be the one that we keep. But it's important that we pray and promise them all that we will help them. Alright, Durance. Finally can talk to Durance.
What is it, Watcher?
Does what we learned about Boudica trouble you?
It stinks of her. It is justice, but if her greater purpose was to think Margaret would fall prey to such deceit. And Aethys, Widewind had always claimed to be invading Deerwood to free it. What if it were true? What if he had come to stop Boudica's plot before it began? Surely Aethys earned his death at Godhammer Citadel, but not for those reasons. Not to keep him silent. If such a thing has brought about this chaos.
Durance tilts his head as if listening to an inner voice. He then frowns, the frown deepening as he speaks.
Must we always be tools of gods? If Woodica and Margrin, if they are the cause of this, the Hollowborn, if the purges were never necessary, if Aethys was fighting back...
Then your Godhammer didn't save Deerwood. It doomed it.
So many lies. And Woodica, perhaps she is the next god to fall beneath the Godhammer.
Durance's body continues to shake, his hands clenching white into a fist, sweat builds streaming down the sides of his face. He is one fucking pissed off dwarf.
Would it have been better had you had spared his knowledge?
No, I am glad to have walked this far with you, seen this truth. Perhaps it was what I was meant to see, with a watcher's eyes.
He glances at you beneath his brows warily.
All these dances of words and intrigues, machines of men, twisted, ripping the souls of children, and by the gods, the goddess of justice. If I could end her like Aethys, Margrin burned her once. One can do so again. Woodica, she must answer to her own justice.
Justice or revenge?
Anyone with a shred of spirit seeks both justice and punishment. It burns in the heart of anyone who lives. All seek it. If the world does not balance, we all drown in the oceans. And the gods would not care. Margrin, she must be redeemed. And punishing Woodica, that will serve.
Do we know when Margrin was not a willing accomplice?
Is this some final joke at my expense? To test my faith further? And why would you think that, Watcher?
The others who made the Godhammer, they all died, didn't they? That's why I saw their symbols fade from your staff.
If all you have are questions, then I have enough of those. She is a bitch of a goddess, to be sure. But even a whore only goes so far in crossing those she serves.
You said you left Ashfell without telling anyone of your departure.
You answer a question with a question. Then why did I feel her disappointment at Halgot? Why were we shamed?
Because I think she tried to kill you there.
Kill me? She is a goddess. I still drink from her burning breasts, Watcher. If she wished me dead, she could trace me to my source and kill me.
In the dream of the Godhammer, your spirit looked blurred, indistinct in the light, as if it had been sheared from you.
He stares at you, his expression frozen, but he's silent, listening.
If you had been damaged as I saw in the Godhammer vision, then she may be unable to see you as you once were.
He turns from you for a moment, his face twist in thought, conflicting emotions running across his features. Finally, he turns to you, his face steady.
There's no proof, Watcher. I was a fool to think you could help me see any farther than I could.
If you don't trust me, then trust your staff. Admit that the other Godhammer builders are dead.
Durance turns to his staff for a moment and to see his eyes burning, taking in the edges of the wood, the symbols inlaid there, the 11 faded circles.
They died in the blast, yes. The other 11. I was the only one to walk away. I thought we had wronged our goddess. That this was my trial, and if I could prove myself worthy of her! I should have known better. There is only one god of redemption, and I saw him ended.
As he studies his staff, you feel a wave of heat, a terrible energy rolling forth from it in waves. So much so it feels as if the Godhammer itself is alive in his hands. And past it you hear a cry, like a child being born. And your eyes feel the flash of white, and then 100 imagined shades of purple and white, streaming and circling in the howling of a storm. And beneath it the grinding of ancient machines and stone, rock and metal, grinding and turning until all around you feels as if it's burning, sinking into the shadows of the earth. Beneath the ground, the only place where a spirit might find refuge.
Ah!
When your vision clears, you see Durance, his hands clutching the staff, and his eyes are bright, burning red. Atop the staff, the flame burns cleanly, brightly. As his gaze burns, he rips his gaze away and howls, a bellowing, horrid howl, like a wounded animal, and sweat pours down his brow.
We can see that justice is served. To her and to Wotica both.
To think I served her. I followed her. Now I shall serve no one. Wutica's lies must be answered. And now it seems I must take fire in war from a goddess's false claim as well. I still take from her strength as I did, for as long as it lasts. For I shall not cast her aside yet, until I have drained her dry and had my fill, just as she intended for me. For I have learned one of the lessons of the faithful. The faithful may wound a goddess greater than any enemy. A purification is coming, and this fire shall consume them both.
Let's continue on, the domain.
Alright, the Trials of Durance are finally in the books, resting in gray. Okay, got some tasks down there. So we have our Rimgrand quest, Barath. We still have our Phylactery Promise quest. That is the bog dragon, I believe, that kicked my butt. We have the side or the companion quest for Maniha, or Mainha, and Heravius, and Grieving Mother. Which some of these we probably aren't going to be able to complete because you have to have them in your party. I think the Grieving Mother one we cannot do. But that's okay. As you can see, we got lots of quests completed throughout this game. Got you 99% of it. Alright folks, that's going to wrap it up. Stay tuned for more Pillars of Eternity. Going to try to get some more up next week. We got a little mini marathon day coming up next Thursday, so expect some more Pillars of Eternity by then. See you soon.